Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking a
categorically,
question. Don't
Mr.
be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You are
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can
No,
you
I'm
give
not
us a
going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Jando. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. And thank you for networking this information to anyone and everyone you know and love. You see, the more people we have educated, don't sell this short, it's really important. The more people we have educated, the more people we have empowered. And the more people we have empowered, the sooner we end this reign of chaos and conflict and death and destruction and reign of terror. All perpetrated by the same entity. Has been that way for, 150 years? Maybe longer. Yeah, longer. You know, the globalist cult, the globalist syndicate, the New World Order crowd, the criminal international banking syndicate, the deep state, the shadow government, it's all the same. The small, relatively small, a couple thousand around the world, small group of people at the very top of that pyramid that are responsible for all of this. And the last thing they want you to realize is that they're responsible. They want you to point at, well, the reason why things are not good is, well, it's an accident, or it's a coincidence, or it's incompetence. Just look at El Demente in the White House, right? No, it's none of that. It's all planned. It's all perpetrated. Do not sell our adversaries short. They're smart and they're ruthless. And they'll stop at nothing to get what they crave the most. More power, more control, and more financial resources. And they have their different operations, their different tentacles to accomplish their goals and objectives. One of their goals are the governments of the world that are all co-opted by the syndicate. Gary Barnett, an outstanding political analyst, recently wrote the following concerning the state. There are no accidents, no coincidence, and no national emergencies or threats. All is planned. He goes on, once again, everything in politics and government is planned in advance. Is not an accident. And any coincidence, natural or organic, is all is staged in one way or another to either affect a certain outcome or cover up another. Believe nothing in the mainstream or government. Trust nothing. Question everything. And never accept any reports unless you can verify the real facts in order to find the truth. I.F. Stone once said, all governments are run by liars, and nothing they say should be believed. Well, the great satirist, comedian, observer of the world, George Carlin, said it his own way. I have certain rules to live by. My first rule is I don't believe anything the government tells me. It's a great rule. George Carlin, always well ahead of the curve in educating and empowering all of us about, their lying operation. See, their biggest wall of lies actually is related to the southern border. Yeah. Because through what they're doing on the border, and I shouldn't just say southern border, because as Mike Cutler has taught us, every state is a border state. Because we have international ports of entry in every state. But it's through their lies about gaslighting you, lying to you, misrepresenting issues. The melding of illegal and legal immigration. Look, I don't know a single soul in our country that is against legal immigration. It's illegal immigration whose foundation is unverified, undocumented. Individuals who could, not necessarily have, but could have and be a risk from a safety and security standpoint, from a health standpoint. They want you to believe that if you're wanting to uphold the rule of law as it relates to long-standing immigration laws, that you are a whatever. No. You're just someone that believes in the rule of law. And that every person should be held accountable, as all of us as American citizens should be held accountable. From Zero Hedge, this might be the biggest lie of the year from the Biden regime. Had the Biden administration prioritized southern border security, significant efforts to resolve the crisis would likely have been completed by now, instead of peddling blatant lies and half-truths to deflect the blame for their disastrous open border policies that have flooded the nation with millions of illegals, some of which are in the FBI's terror watch list. All this has occurred before the 2024 presidential election cycle, and that is not, please, one of the big problems is an underestimate of the freedom movement, of the true evilness of our adversaries. Look, in 2020, they had their foot soldiers, right? You know, that Summer of Love, remember that whole thing? The Antifa, domestic operation. Well, you haven't heard much from Antifa lately. And my guess is that before the 2024 election, there's going to be a different group of foot soldiers, many of whom are these foot soldiers truly invading our border. When, got a thumbs up there, when you look at who's coming across the border, Victor Avila, one of our regulars, an American hero, former agent of INS, special agent, he keeps going to the border. And what he realized, documented many months ago, is 90% of those coming across are not women or not children. Yeah, there are women and children, but the vast majority are fighting-aged males from China, from Russia, from Venezuela, from Cuba, from Argentina, from the Middle East, from Ukraine. Oh, what's going on? There's your foot soldiers that I believe could well be used for significant chaos before the 2024 election, similar to what we saw in 2020. The Zero Hedge article goes on. A large chunk of corporate progressive media outlets have been spoon-fed propaganda from the White House this year to distract Americans with southern border misinformation. The clearest misinformation campaign from the White House was in May, when Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas declared, quote, "I want to be very clear, our borders are not open," end quote, right? Quote, "This is a massive lie. The southern border is wide open and the Biden administration is funding the whole thing. Our country is going to be run into the ground by illegal immigrants if something doesn't change," end quote. Yeah. Yet, when Mayorkas was brought up on impeachment issues in Congress, the Republicans did not impeach him. Why? Because, as I've told you since I've been doing the radio show for 13 years, there's one political party in Washington, the Republicans, owned and operated by a criminal syndicate. And they all answer to the same globalist puppeteers. Yeah, no, Mayorkas wasn't impeached. Should have been. So should 99% of them in government. No. And this invasion is not an accident or not a coincidence, and it's not incompetence. It's a component. It's an operation of the globalist domestic chaos plan, which will be fully operational by the fall of 2024, leading up to election chaos. The globalists are having a problem, though. You see, so many people, thanks to you, educating and empowering other people about what's really going on, your friends and families and neighbors that are still tuned into the bought-off lamestream fake media that they see as the mainstream media, wrong. Anyone who still sees it as the mainstream, whoa. Cognitive function check test. But you've awakened, and will continue to awaken, because you won't give up, I know, people, so that they ultimately become empowered because they become educated about what's really going on. And these people that become awakened in a peaceful fashion, they let their elected representatives, or whatever you want to call them, know that they're wise to what they're up to and their freedom stripping agenda, which includes what they're doing on immigration. Globalist Democratic mayors, of New York, Chicago, Denver plead for help as migrant storm worsens. The Democrat mayors, the globalist mayors, of three sanctuary cities, Chicago, New York City, and Denver, warn their metro areas are quickly approaching a breaking point due to the ongoing surge of illegals. They just want them to stay down there, stay in Arizona, stay in Texas, stay in New Mexico. Starting about over a decade ago on our platform, we had Ann Corcoran talk about the refugee resettlement program and the involvement of non-governmental organizations that were making hundreds of millions of dollars in transporting, essentially trafficking, illegals. That has escalated. We've had Victor Avila on the border, on both sides of the border, documenting how these NGOs are working against our own immigration laws that are on the books. We've had people on the front line in their own communities. Yvette Franco Clark, who comes on our show as a regular activist, outing that how in their communities these NGOs are putting people's safety and security and health at risk while making hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. General Flynn recently addressed this. To the tune of approximately $363 million U.S. tax dollars, a network of non-governmental organizations are covertly facilitating the invasion of illegals at the U.S. southern border and every border in our country, as well as distributing them across the United States into globalist metro areas. The invasion of America is intentional if it doesn't cease immediately, and if there aren't large deportations, this invasion will destroy the country. And in addition, as I've always pointed out to you, there's also a huge health and safety component to this. From James Varney at Real Clear Wire, leprosy, polio, malaria, TB, measles, and massive unscreened illegal immigration. Successful public health campaigns and medical advances have enabled the United States to conquer a range of disfiguring and damaging diseases. Some of these forgotten but still formidable infectious diseases have begun to reappear in the United States for 2 years running now, such as polio, leprosy, malaria. One distinct possibility, which officials are loath to discuss, is that millions of migrants who have crossed into the country illegally in recent years could be bringing the scourges with them, since many are from countries where such rare diseases persist. Yeah. And then let's add to that the fentanyl issues that have led to 150,000 Americans every year for the past 3 years to die from the transportation of that illegal fentanyl across borders, including the southern border. And add to that those that truly have been criminals, documented well before they got here, that are crossing the border who have now killed and injured and maimed countless Americans. You see, folks, the border and the wall of lies is falling over on the cult. Those who were mesmerized by what they were being propagandized with in the bought-off lamestream fake media have awakened by the millions. And that's because of you and your efforts. It's because of the independent media, such as this platform, of laying out information of what's really happening, of guests who are on the front line who come forward and risk their own lives to tell you what's happening and what we need to do to shut it down. So right now you're starting to see globalist mayors and governors. They're talking about being sanctuary states. Sanctuary states saying, we need to do something about the border right now. What changed? What happened? You. Saying, listen, I know what you're up to. You fed us a bunch of lies. Stop it. You stop this. You're putting my family, you're putting our community in harm's way on a safety and security standpoint, on a criminality standpoint, on a health and welfare standpoint, on the fact that our education system's going under because we can't afford to have all these people in our system. Stop it right now. And if you don't, we're going to vote you out of office. We're going to recall you. And that is why there has been this sea change. And now, well, we need to do something about this. Yeah. So when people tell you you can't make a difference, that what you do will never affect anything from a positive standpoint, those are defeatists in life. Don't listen to them. No. Look, if Washington had listened to all those people that were telling him, don't cross the Delaware. Jeez, yeah, come on, stop it. Pack it in, man. Imagine where we'd be. Imagine if there were a bunch of defeatists on those landing crafts going into Omaha Beach and Normandy. Imagine if there were a bunch of defeatists on those boats. Don't get out of the boat. Don't do it. Don't you do it. Imagine the small, albeit too little, small number of physicians and surgeons who 4 years ago stood up and said, wait a minute, this whole bat soup thing? No. This whole protocol thing they're talking about? Imagine if they just decided to listen to the defeatists. You can't make a difference. Just imagine. Imagine in your own life of when you had an idea and you thought it would make a positive difference for your community, for your society, for you. And you had everybody buzzing in your ear. Oh, don't do that. That's not going to help. It's not going to make. You can't pull that. You can't do. Imagine if you had listened to those defeatists. You wouldn't be successful as you are. There's always going to be people in your ear telling you don't do that. Okay? But you got to listen to your heart. You got to listen to your gut. You got to synthesize things with your noggin. And you have to forge ahead. It might not be something you want to do, but it's something you have to do. Like those warriors getting off those landing crafts in Omaha Beach. Like Washington and his men crossing the Delaware. Yeah. It's all about not being buying into the defeatists in life, not buying into the lies. That's how we end this reign of terror by the globalist cult. I thank you for joining me today. We are available 24/7 at DaveJanda.com with extra shows, content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows. Tremendous amount of free public information at DaveJanda.com, but where the real meat of the matter is the in-depth information, the information that will put you months, if not years, ahead of the globalist constructed curve, is on the subscription side, 30 cents a day, $9 a month. We do that because we have fees to pay for our IT team and our hosting and all the issues associated with having a website that is safe and secure. It takes a lot of money. And your subscription pays for that. Without our subscribers, none of these videos would exist. The radio show would not exist. None of it. I hope you become part of our freedom family. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.